Good morning, class. Our last lesson is on pragmatics and the Gricean maxims and cooperative principle. Today, let's learn the domains of pragmatics and implicatures. Our main references include the Handbook of Pragmatics and the Handbook of Discourse Analysis. Please be guided on the acronyms that we will be using in today's discussion. This includes the following: S for speaker, H for hearer, CP for cooperative principles, and C for conventional or conversational implicature. Previously you noted that meaning is extracted from context. Without hearer's context, speaker's meaning, intention or meaning making would not be successfully put across more precisely. Pragmatics is a study of the way context can influence our understanding of linguistic utterances. Pragmatics as we now understand it, has radiated outward from that aspect of human inferential behavior which Grice calls implicature. Implicature is the aspect of speaker meaning that distinguishes what is, strictly, said from what is, more broadly, meant. Example, the statement, "It's so hot in here," has many implicatures that the hearer can draw upon. First, it can imply a direct request to open the window or door, or that the hearer should open the air conditioning unit. The aspect of meaning that a speaker conveys, implies, or suggests without directly expressing. Although the utterance, "Can you pass the salt?" is literally a request for information about one's ability to pass salt, the understood implicature is a request for salt. In layman's term, conversational implicatures are the assumptions suggested by the speaker and inferred by the hearer during conversation, as it is implied, suggested or is meant. Speaker S counts on hearer H to invoke the same pragmatic principles for the purposes of utterance interpretation. Its history, the contrast between the said and the meant, and derivatively between the said and the implicated, the meant but unsaid, dates back to the 4th century rhetoricians Servius and Donatus, who characterized litotes, pragmatic understatement, as a figure in which we say less but mean more. Litotes saying in negative construction what should have been said positively. For example, "You won't be sorry for having joined the BAELS." In the Gricean model, the bridge from what is said to what is communicated is built through implicature. Common examples of implicatures in today's world of linguistic analysis would be figure of speech such as metaphor and irony. Implicature serves a variety of goals, including communication, maintaining good social relations, misleading without lying, style, and verbal efficiency. Now let's look at the types of implicatures. First off, we have to learn what conventional implicature is. As an opener, our example sentence says, "Donovan is poor but happy." The conjunction, but, in the sentence implicates a sense of contrast or opposite. In the sentence, the implicature here is that the poor are normally unhappy. Donovan is poor but his being poor does not deter him from being happy. So, Grice stated that, in some cases the conventional meaning of the words used will determine what is implicated, besides helping to determine what is said. If I say, smugly, "He is an Englishman," he is, therefore, brave, I have certainly committed myself, by virtue of the meaning of my words, to its being the case that his being brave as a consequence of, follows from, his being an Englishman. Examples of conventional implicatures can be seen derived from sentences that use even, but, and to. You may read the examples here. Now let's try manage and still. For manage, our example statement is Jane managed to start the car. The entailment is that Jane successfully started the engine of the car. The conventional implicature is that Jane might have a situation while starting on the car's engine, but in the end she did jumpstart the car. Now we come to knowing what conversational implicature is. C is the use of a maxim or a violation of a maxim that gives rise to what Grice calls a conversational implicature. But wait a minute, let's be clear that the differences between conventional implicature is when an implicature is automatically triggered, through a reference to the meaning of a word, while conversational implicature is supposed to be worked out by the hearer. To simplify, Grice suggested the following conditions in working out of a conversational implicature. 1. The conventional meaning of the word. 2. The CP and the conversational maxims. 3. The linguistic context. 4. The background knowledge. 5. The fact that 1, 2, 4 are available to S and H. How do we test for conversational implicatures? What are the criteria for measuring if there is an implicature in a conversation? CIS are calculable, cancelable, non-detachable, non-conventional, carried not by what is said but by the speech act, and indeterminate. Implicatures are cancelable if additional premises are added or stated by speaker without causing contradictions. Study the examples shown. Conversational implicatures are calculable because they are the result of a working out procedure. Then we have scalar implicatures, which are also categorized under the conversational implicatures. Our best example for this is the sentence, "Some of the boys went to the party." This implies that not all of the boys went to the party. Then you have more examples given here. The utterance is, "The courses are sometimes interesting." The conversational implicatures is that the courses are not always, not often interesting. Read the cartoon given as an example of scalar conversational implicature.
Can I borrow $10?
No.
Can I borrow $20?
Jeremy, if I don't lend you $10, I'm certainly not going to lend you 20.
How about 40? The proposition, "I can't lend you $10, have a conversational implicature, which is that the speaker cannot lend more than $10 to the hearer.
Where do scalar implicatures come from? The classical Neo-Gricean approach, based mainly on Horn's and Levinson's research, is predicated on making the first maxim of quantity and the submaxims of manner, avoid ambiguity, and avoid obscurity, into a principle. The Q principle. Make your contribution sufficient. Say as much as you can. For Horn, the Q principle is hearer-based, and as opposed to the R principle, which is speaker-based. The R principle make your contribution necessary. Say no more than you must. The R principle is based on the maxims of relation, the second maxim of quantity and the maxims of manner, be brief, and be orderly. While the Q principle is illustrated by scalar implicatures, the R principle is typically exemplified by indirect speech acts. The main advantage of the Neo-Gricean approach to implicature, mainly scalar implicatures, is that it reduces the 9 Gricean maxims to 2 principles, which are supposed to balance each other. Corresponding to Horn's R principle is Levinson I principle, or principle of informativeness. I principle speaker's maxim, the maxim of minimization. Say as little as necessary. Now we will study Levinson's informational amplification of utterances. This is to amplify the informational content of the speaker's utterance, by finding the most specific interpretation. Examples of Levinson's informational amplification of utterances include conditional perfection, seen in the statement "If you mow the lawn, I will give you $5. Implies that if you don't mow the lawn, I won't give $5. The second is conjunction buttressing example. John turned the key and the engine started. Implies that, pause, 10 John turned the key and then the engine started. Another example is, I kissed her, and? What would follow this? Another one is I ate the apple few minutes after it was sliced, and? Or but? The third one is bridging example. Pause. 1. John unpacked the picnic. The beer was warm, implying that the beer was part of the picnic. The fourth one is inference on a stereotype. This can be studied in this sentence. Pause. 1. John said, hello, to the secretary and then he smiled. Which can have a lot of implicature based on John said, hello, to the female secretary, pause. 1. And then he smiled. Finally you have negative strengthening. I don't like Alice, pause. 1. Which can imply I positively dislike Alice. In conclusion, implicatures can aid in communicating more efficiently than, pause. 1. By explicitly saying everything we want to communicate. On pragmatic awareness, we must also, and more importantly, work out what the sender wants to convey. How relevant and useful is the study or your knowledge about implicatures? Now you must read the implications for the study of pragmatics and implicatures to English language teaching in general. For your required reading, read the journal articles on the linguistics of lying, on women and lying, and verbal irony. Thanks. Thank you. God bless and see you. Have a great day ahead. It's me, Ma'am Venus.